love was like drugs, and I had suitcases full of it. I never thought.
That's a very interesting thing for a dietitian and a mother to say. More so the dietitian than the mother, because the dietitian is supposed to be educated in diet science. Basically, she's saying the average age was, I think, 38 years old in 1850, so I'll stick with my standard foods and vaccinations, which she is basically saying is science. I would encourage anybody that really interested in the truth to look up age-adjusted lifespan statistics. And then you get past the BS of so-called science. And Steiner warned that more dangerous than an absolute lie or complete untruth is a quarter truth or a half truth. Now, the problem with social media is people that don't know any better would look at that, see that she's a dietitian, and use that as an excuse to continue to not think and do careful research on vaccinations and eat whatever garbage they can buy for the cheapest amount of money and things like that. But if you actually look at what are called age-adjusted lifespan statistics, you'll see a very different picture emerge. I did this years ago for research I was doing for a project, and when you consider for a very long time in human evolution, even in the 1800s, a lot of people lived in very rough conditions. Think of, the fact that cities are now much bigger than they used to be, and people were in farm areas and lived more out away from hospitals. And prior to that, even when the people that migrated to the west of the United States in the 1800s and a little earlier than that, they had to live in some pretty rough conditions. So when you look at age-adjusted statistics, what they look at is how many people died due to birthing complications, so death at birth, how many people died due to a plague, and it just wiped, millions of children and women and kids out, often at very young ages, and how many other things died that would actually skew the lifespan statistics. When they actually take all those factors out and look at a lifespan of an individual in a more realistic context, it turns out that the average lifespan was, if I remember it right, it's been years, but it was pretty much this. The average male was living 72 years and the average female was living 78 years. And that goes all the way back into the days of Native American Indians and people we would call primitive. Universities say, people didn't live past 35 or 36 years of age, kind of exactly what this is saying. It's so untrue. I've read tons of great books written by or referring to or speaking about Native American Indian chiefs and shaman and people that lived 78, 80, 90 years of age. So when you look at the reality of it, someone who died at birth didn't really live. But if you include that in life statistics, which is how those numbers were got, then you get very tricked into believing that everybody's living better because they're eating junk food, poison food, commercial crap, and using vaccines. Well, look at the last 5 years for the truth of that, and look at all the research coming out now that people got their attention on it and they're looking into it. Just to keep this video on the air, I won't get too detailed, but if you're, awake, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I think the thing I want to say is it really makes me sad when I see people with degrees that should know how to do research, that should know how to think, that should take responsibility for their influence on others, but they publish things like that that are dangerously wrong and promoting bad ideas. And that very clip she did there is promoting the use of commercial food, which is extremely toxic, poisoning the earth, ruining the environment, complete abortion of farming, ruining our topsoils, and on I could go. And then to give information without even researching to see if it's true that is misleading is to do exactly what was done to people like that in universities, where they just gullibly sucked it up and believed it, and then go out and the next thing you know, they're starting fights over this stuff. And that's exactly why I got kicked out of school several times, because I would not take things teachers said at face value, and I would ask them questions that they couldn't answer, and they get upset at me. And then I would ask them, for example, how did you come to that conclusion? Where did you get this information? And oftentimes I would just get told to shut up. So after 9 years of elementary school and junior high school, I just said, that's enough of that. I'm going to go educate myself, which I am very glad that I did. So the moral of the story is, be careful what you believe, be careful what you read, and be even more careful when people have degrees after their name, because sadly, it often doesn't mean they're educated. It means that they're brainwashed and they haven't been taught to think. They've been taught what to think. And that is a problem today. So check it out for yourself. Age-adjusted lifespan statistics, and you will see the truth. And remember, common sense is a good idea. Using vaccines without doing a lot of research is very dangerous. And eating commercial poison garbage food that's destroying the environment is very dangerous. If you've got a degree in dietetics or nutrition or anything like that, and you're promoting that kind of information, then you're dangerous to yourself, your family, and everybody else, and including nature. So time for a little farm boy common sense. Thanks for joining me.